Okay, so feel free to start anytime.
DYCD, Barbershop Talk, Fatherhood Matters, Diverse. Hey yo, these is barbershop talks where the fathers pop off, brag about relationships and argue about sports. Every topic's a favorite is how we plot course toward changes. It all begins with dialogue and patience. Barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Chop it up, boys. Chop it up, boys. It's barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. It's barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. It's barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Chop it up, boys. Chop it up, boys. Barbershop talk. DYCD Barbershop Talk, hosted by L. Hopper, Scott Leach, Jerry Hippolyte, and Mike Bobbitt. Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another night of the Barbershop Talks. Once again, we're here and we have a great panel today. We have a great subject matter we're going to talk to you about. And really interesting because we're in a situation right now around the country, around the world, where we can make some real changes. And hopefully this is what we're going to be doing as we continue our series on transformation. And we're going to be talking about societal transformation and the youth workforce. And we know that society is going to be changing drastically, and we have some really great experts going to help us and lead us, maybe guide us and give us tips of how we can transform our society into what we really want to be. We've gone through some tough days and some tough years, and this past year was really tough. So right now I'm going to bring in my compadres, and Jerry, how you doing out there? You're muted, Jerry. Gotta turn your mic on.
And nothing like a muted mic to take you off your game, right? But I'm doing pretty good right now. It's a really good Tuesday. I'm excited about a great conversation. Again, my name is Jerry Hippolyte. I'm a deputy director at DYCD and a mental health counselor and ambassador with the agency. And I'm excited to bring on our other co-host, Mike. You want to jump in real quick?
Sure, I made a point of unmuting, so I don't want to fall into the same trap. What's up, everybody? Mike Bobbitt, Deputy Commissioner for Community Development at DYCD. As always, Jerry, Scott, it's a pleasure to be with you. And it's a pleasure to be able to have one of these barbershop talks. We got a lot of people in the barbershop this evening. Let's start bringing folks out.
So I'm going to bring out the first person. I'll bring out the last person. So I'm going to bring out Miss Annie Walls. Miss Annie, how you doing, girl?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, DYCD. Thank the team behind that you can't see right now. Thank you for having me. So I'm Annie Willis. I'm a Ladders for Leaders alumni, but also a New Yorker. So I went to Long Island City High School and I got my CTE license in culinary arts. From Long Island High School, I went to Brute College. So again, a whole New Yorker, Team CUNY, and I got my bachelor's degree in public affairs. So I was fortunate enough to do 2 internships through Ladders for Leaders. Going into my freshman year, I did an internship at the Mayor's Office for International Affairs. And I enjoyed the program so much that I came back, right? So my other internship was with the Open Society Foundation in my junior year. And I was a legal analytics intern there. So thank you for having me. And I'm glad to be part of this great barbershop talk.
Great. Jerry, why don't you bring your guest in?
All right, awesome. I actually get the awesome opportunity to bring in these amazing youth entrepreneurs. I want to start with Asia. Asia, I want you to just tell everybody right now a little bit about yourself, the school you go to, the business that you run, and what you're about.
Okay, but you're telling everything. You're supposed to hint. You hinting too much. Like you just took everything away just now.
So that's take away from
So I am a sophomore at John Jay College that's majoring in forensic psychology with a minor in public administration. And I'm also an aspiring nail tech in Staten Island.
And you ain't told nobody the name of your business? So you want to
Oh, okay. Yes. My business is called Autumn Elegance. You can find it on Instagram. I also work at a salon for a place called La Rue the beauty experience. And it's a Black-owned nail salon in Staten Island. Check it out.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Let's bring it over to our other entrepreneur, Jeff. If I say it wrong, please guide me through it. Sonatus. Did I get you right, Jeff?
I'm a senatus, but yeah.
Got it. So you
you.
tell us a little bit about yourself. What school you go to? What business you run?
So I'm a senior at Millwood High School. I'm currently a New York State certified EMT. I run two businesses actually. I run Shop by J Visions, which is a photography company. It's upcoming. You guys could check me out on Instagram as well, Shop by J Visions. And I do run a recording music studio in Brooklyn, New York.
Awesome. I want to thank y'all too for coming on board and being a part of the barbershop. Hey, Mike, I give it to
High
you.
school. Damn.
Thank you, Jerry. So we got so many good guests. I got to think about who I want to introduce first, second, and third. So I'm going to start with who I've known the longest. So, we've been asked a couple of times to reach from different parts of your network. And so next coming to the barbershop is a good friend of mine. I met his acquaintance in college. He is really one of our experts on the issues of labor and has had such illustrious prior experience as the Secretary of Labor for the state of New Jersey. He's got a lot of relevant information for us today. Please welcome to the barbershop, Mr. David Sokolow. Dave, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mike. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of the Barbershop Talk and come across the river virtually from my home state of New Jersey. And Mike and I bonded in college as a New York and New Jersey boy, far from home, a long time ago. I, as Mike said, at one point in my career, worked at the U.S. Department of Labor. I was the leader of the New Jersey Department of Labor. And now I'm running a state agency called HISA, which is a financial aid for students to get post-secondary education. So my whole career has been about helping people find their path, help them pay for it to get the training and the credentials they need. And when you see the kinds of youth entrepreneurs and ideas about their future and great plans, my whole goal is to try to talk about how we help empower that and give people the tools they need and the money they need to pursue their careers. So I'm excited for this chat and for this terrific panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Next, it's my pleasure to welcome other colleagues from DYCD. So that's another one of our charges is we draw from the deep bench across the agency, people that are interested in coming to the Barbershop Talks and people that have a lot of useful information and really valuable perspectives. So one quick historical lesson, DYCD exists because of the coming together of different city agencies. So, a long time ago, the city had a Department of Youth Services. A long time ago, there was a Community Development Agency. A long time ago, there was a Department of Employment. And at different points in time, they brought the Community Development Agency and the Youth Services Agency together. They took all the youth programs from youth employment and brought that to that agency. So we want to make sure all of our relevant identities get represented in the Barbershop Talks and all our relevant services at DYCD for our audience get celebrated and recognized here. So next guest, pleasure to welcome you, our brother Nuris. He works with many of DYCD's youth workforce programs. He has knowledge about things that we're funding and certainly has knowledge about other things that are happening around New York City. Nuris, welcome to the Barbershop.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's great to be here, especially with so many great panelists, especially the young entrepreneurs. And I'm looking at you, Annie. I'm so proud of you because you are one of our Ladders for Leaders alumni. So it's great to see, the alumni are doing so many great things across New York City. My name is, as Mike mentioned, Nuris Salam. I'm the director of Ladders for Leaders and Career Ready SYP program. So I'm with the Workforce Connect side, which actually run wide range of youth employment program. And one of our very prestigious program is SYP, Summer Youth Employment Program, which has been around for a very long time, since 1963. And it's such a New York City experience. If you are young people, that's something you look forward to. When the school closes, you're looking for that summer job. And as you know, because of pandemic last summer, we are not able to operate a regular SYP, but we are so excited that SYP is coming back for 2021. And I'm so glad to be here and also spread the word about Summer Youth Employment Program application, because we are currently accepting applications. So if any youth who are watching our barbershop talk today, feel free to go to application.nycsyp.com and complete your application today. Looking forward to chatting with you all.
Yes, thank you, Norris. Glad to have you aboard. And I can't say enough good things about you. Great colleague representing lots of valuable programs at DYCD. I also have the pleasure to welcome another colleague from DYCD. And when we were getting ready to do this, put this panel together, I was in another meeting. I said, hey, I wonder if we can get this guy, because he has a lot of information, a lot of insight. So he was one of the first people that we secured. He was going to be part of this conversation. So Mike, welcome to the Barbershop. This is Mike Deutsch. He's actually the Chief Technical Officer for DYCD. So he oversees all of the tech. The Barbershop and all the rest of it doesn't happen if we don't have Mike's support. And hopefully we won't have any technical glitches or issues tonight. I'm sure we won't. Glad to have you aboard, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Truthfully, I really appreciated the invite, because I lost my hair about 20 years ago, and going to a barbershop makes me feel back my youth over there. So I'll give you a little background. My name is Michael Deitch. I went, much like Annie, Brooklyn College all the way through, graduated there, and while I was still in college, I took up an internship at the New York City Department of Health, then became Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. I worked there for 14 years, moving up, starting in desktop support. That's how most people think about IT. Something breaks, like Mike just said, somebody's got to be there to fix it. But then moving into roles where I kind of grew, and I think a lot of what we're going to talk about here is moving on past what you know to things that you don't know, so you can really progress in your career and your life. So I moved up. At the end, I was managing IT operations in the data center until I came over to DYCD, where I was Chief Technology Officer running infrastructure, and now Chief Information Officer running IT, and really focusing on digital transformation, which is kind of fits in well, I think, with the topic we're going to discuss today. So excited.
Thanks, Mike. So Scott, I'm going to pass it back to you, because I know you have some additional guests that we need to. Oh no, I got one more, don't I?
Yeah, I was going to say
one more.
You got one more.
Yeah.
No, get that one. Go ahead.
I don't want to shirk my duty. So yeah, I got a lot of guests. So it's also my pleasure to welcome to the Barbershop another good buddy of mine, another college connection, different walks of life. You meet a lot of people when you go away to college. That's right, maybe, or when you stay in the city and meet people with college. All right. Here's a brother that we wanted to come to last month's Barbershop, but the knowledge and expertise and his perspective made so much sense to say, all right, can we have you come back next month so we have more time and more space for you? Elmani Vani, my brother from another mother, but also an expert on the issue of mentoring and mentorship, and on a lot of things that have to do with community transformation. I don't want to steal any thunder away from him. He's an educator, he's an advocate, and he's a good dude, and I'm glad he's in the barbershop right now. So Elmani, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Peace and greetings. Can everybody hear me? Mike, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Hey, hello everyone. Peace and greetings. My name is Elmani Viney. I am a 24-year veteran educator. I'm Dean of Students right now at Piscataway High School, the high school I've been at now for 21 years. And along with my work in the educational sector, I'm also the past executive director of the Cap Alpha Psi Foundation, as well as the past national guide right chairman for Cap Alpha Psi. That is our national initiative on all youth-based programs and initiatives, especially centering on those for African-American males and young men of color. Born and raised Jersey City, and this work has just always been a passion. So I look forward to us digging into this conversation today.
Thank you, El. Indeed, my brother. All right, now I'm done. Now I pass it over to Scott.
Thanks, Mike. But before I go, I got to get myself ready for this introduction. I get my hat on. I gotta get my ringside pass on, because we're getting ready to have a rumble in the jungle. We have the one and only the chief executive of the campaign for Black Male Achievement, the one, the only, Sean Dove.
The champ is here. The champ is here. No. Oh man, this is really wonderful. Happy to be here, and I have my Rumble hat in arm's reach, and welcome everybody. You look beautiful on the screen. My name is Sean Dove. I'm a native New Yorker. I've lived in every borough. And that will never happen. I am now exiled in central New Jersey with El Monte. I don't know where you are, David. I'm in Piscataway right now. And wow, so I have been blessed throughout my life just to be connected with so many DYCD programs, summer youth employment program. Transformational moment in my trajectory was moving from Harlem to the Upper West Side and getting involved in a youth program called the Dome Project. And that helped to change my life. Thought I wanted to sell loose joints on the corner of 80th Street and Amsterdam Avenue, and they snatched me up. I know nobody on the screen knows anything about loose joints. I did my first 3 years of high school at Brooklyn Tech. And my second 2 years of high school through the Dome, I got a scholarship to go away to this prep school called Lawrence Academy in Groton, Massachusetts, which was just an amazing culture shock experience, but learned a lot about social capital and just navigating different worlds. Last, 40 years of my career has been an intersection of youth development, community building, worked at the Harlem Children's Zone, was able to launch the first Beacon School back in 1991. That was funded by DYCD. Worked in philanthropy. I think Annie mentioned she was an intern at Open Society Foundations, and I did a stint there. The last 12 years I've been blessed to lead the campaign for Black Male Achievement, which has been a philanthropic and intermediary organization improving the life outcomes of Black men and boys. In an intermission season, we sunsetted CBMA at the end of last year. Have launched the Corporation for Black Male Achievement, which is a publishing and a design firm, and really telling the stories and building innovative capital for Black men and boys. So that's why I'm really interested in this conversation. And I'll just close and say that the most important line of my bio is that I'm the dad to Nia, Maya, Cameron, and Caleb, and married to my divine mate, Desiree, for the last 27 years. Pray for me, please.
And also, Sean, his new title is an author of a book, I Too Am America. So that's his new book that he has coming out. I don't know if he has a copy to show on the screen for a second, but he is also an author. Now, talk about somebody who's been transforming. Sean has transformed many, many times and still transforming. So, folks, we're talking about transformation through the workforce, and we know that society is always going to be changing based on the dollar bill, based on how money comes around, how things are circulated, and how people are going to move from one industry to the next industry. From like we went from when we didn't have any computers and we would still have the dial-up phones, and we were able to get around with. Some of y'all have never even seen a dial tone phone where you have to actually take your finger and you have to push the number all the way around to get the zero, or you have to remember 7 numbers. You don't have to just look at your phone and push somebody's name and get it. So, but because of technology, it has shifted and changed our society. So with societal change that we're going through right now, somebody tell me, like, how can we make sure that we stay abreast of what's happening in society, but also make society better through the societal change that we're trying to achieve? Did I say too much?
No, I think you said it just the way it's supposed to be said. I'll bring it down. If anything, I said when we're talking about the change in society, I want to lead with the changers of that society, and I believe that to be our youth, right? And so when we talk about youth workforce, right, we're really moving with the design technology and the change that our youth run with, right? social media, all that. That really started with a group of college kids trying to figure out how do we connect together, right? And it blew into all this other new stuff. So I'm actually going to take the same question that Scott said, and I'll pivot it starting with our entrepreneurs and then bring it back to the entire group. What's some like technological tech, Mike, I may need your help to say this word properly, technological advances that you use, whether it's Instagram, social media, to help build your platform as a business, and what are some things that you want to continue to use where you feel like it needs to expand? So I'll start with the youth entrepreneurs. Jeff, Asia, you could start first.
Okay, so with that, you could definitely, because what I use for my business, my photography business, we use the platform of Instagram. So with Instagram, it's easier for us to promote because it's just one button that shares. So with that one button, Instagram shows different insights of how many people you reached, the age range you reach, gender you reach, and it shows you what location is being reached at. So what we use is we promote it, we invest the money to promote it. It's like $1 for about 15 to 35 accounts reached, and that just takes it away. So what I would say to that would help is promotion. I'm heavy on promotion because promotion helps reach other people.
Nice, nice. And Asia, what do you use for your business? I'm pretending like I don't even hear you all the time on your social media account.
Zed. Okay, so I use Instagram as well, but because my account is rather still fresh and new, I prefer word of mouth. And I'm not one of those entrepreneurs that really look at my followers religiously, because followers to me doesn't mean anything, because I know more people know about me than the followers that are on my account. But I know a lot of people know about me in Staten Island because of the clients that I've done, and also the opportunity of me working in a nail salon.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. So opening up now to the entire group, leading off with Mike, because Mike is like our guru, at least relates with DYCD with technology. How are we building these platforms? You heard it with social media and Instagram. I know we have our own social media account. What are we doing from the agency end to really size that gap so we can bring it to everybody else?
Sure. I don't view social media as really a technology tool anymore. It's a part of the function of society. It is a way to get your word across. It's just easier now than it used to be. The way when you use dealing enterprise IT as opposed to really through the social media, you think of digital transformation a little differently. And I put together this analogy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let me see if I can get it across that it makes sense, right? So our goal at DYCD is to get people from point A to point B, right? To get people into services that they need, right? But if you take that analogy and you say, okay, we have a car, we have to get from New York City to Florida, point A to point B. So you have three options here. You could take your, beat up VW Beetle that, still has manual windows, that maybe an 8-track if you really want to go all the way back, and you can make yourself to Florida. I didn't date myself. I'm still younger than an 8-track. Okay. Or then you could go to the next where you're actually upgrading your system, right? You buy the newest Tesla on the road. This thing has that big, 20-inch screen. It will drive the car for you, maybe make you coffee, massage your feet, whatever you want. It's still a car. It's still getting you from point A to point B on the same roads. It may get you there a little faster because it's not going to break down halfway through, though you do have to plug it into one of those walls. So I don't know how long that takes. But that's not transformation. That's upgrading. That's making things the same way, but better and fancier. When I think about transformation, it's fundamentally changing the way that we do business, right? So instead of building a fancy car that drives us from point A to point B, we're building a car that flies and can get us from point A to point B in different ways. So you take that analogy back to DYCD, what we're trying to do, get people point A to point B, same thing, right? People into the services and resources that they need. So you could start with what we were doing, right? Our VW Beetle, people come in, they fill out a form, they walk into a provider, they sit down, somebody types into a computer, they go through their process. It could take days, weeks, however long it does. The upgrade, the Tesla over there, right? What do we do there? Well, we could digitize those forms, move them online, make it a little easier. We can apply to multiple providers at the same time. We can see our resources. We can do multiple things. We can get more data back to us. but it's really just taking the same process and moving it into a digital platform. When we're dealing with transformation, how do we make it fly? So for us, we gather all this data, we gather all this information about the people we serve, but they only know about the services that they're looking for. How can we make it that we can give them those services that they didn't know about, the services that they were unaware of, the services that they don't know if they need, but we can tell them, yes, we think you do need it, and then give them access to those resources in easier and easier ways. That's how I think about transformation when it comes to DYCD and how we're trying to redo the way we do technology here. And I still have a Facebook account so I updated myself there, not Instagram. My wife does Instagram though. So there's that.
So I want to go over to Sean, because Sean, you were able to help give a lot of young people entrepreneurial opportunities with the funding. And you know, that's a lot of times, a lot of young people don't even have a chance to get off the ground because they can't even find funding or know anything about funding. But so talk to a little bit how you were helped. I know you helped hundreds and hundreds of people, young people around the country through that.
Yeah, I think that we have to approach this with a kind of a networked, structural lens, right? And not just necessarily looking at young people in a vacuum, but who are young people connected to their networks, their institutions, community-based organizations that often provide them with those entrepreneurial opportunities. And I think really importantly, and I know DYCD does this, is resourcing those institutions and those organizations so that they have the infrastructure to provide young people with opportunities. And I think that also leadership, you know, nothing happens without a leadership. And how are we as a nation, as a community, having some forward thinking, right? Because we can't be training young people for opportunities that are not going to even exist by the time they're ready to step into them, right? And so there's this whole notion of like, you know, the long view, right? Like what opportunities in 2030 are we preparing young people for, and even ourselves? And while, yes, we are in an age with advanced technologies, you know, social capital will always be the currency that advances young people and adults. And what I mean by that is just relationships. And we just heard when Mike was doing the introductions, he met David in college, he met Elmani in college. And I'm looking at Mike's grade. College wasn't like yesterday for him, right? That's a couple of decades ago. And learn to cultivate those relationships over the years. And I'm inspired by the young entrepreneurs on the screen because the nature of work is changing. So much of it is gig economy, contracts, and we hear so much about, you know, we romanticize startups and businesses and accelerators. I think what we need to do more of in our communities is how do we incubate ideas, right? How do we incubate and have community hubs where Jeff and Asia can come together that may have two disparate ideas, right? Or seemingly, but in a community incubation hub, they can find ways to work together. And the last thing I'm going to say, what worries me that we have to, I think, project and protect for is ensuring that our young people are going into an economy where there's a living wage and that they don't have to work 3 jobs to raise a family, to get housing, right? And so, and that's also policy and structure. There's a lot of structural stuff, right? And I promise to close here. The thing that I would say specifically to the young folks or the younger folks is to work harder on yourself than you do on your jobs. Demystifying self-care, mental health, and emotional well-being. Too often at the mantle of striving and success, we lose ourselves. We compare, comparison is a calling. We talk about Instagram. We're comparing what we're doing day to day to somebody's highlights. And so I am a firm believer in therapy, right? And creating communities of well-being.
Ooh, Sean,
So
you said a lot.
that was a mouthful, Sean.
I
But
want to
Annie,
jump in. I want to jump in.
Oh, go ahead.
One, I have no problem with my gray hair. I own it. I took time. I earned it, right? No, it's all good. And frankly, from month to month, sometimes when people check into the barbershop like David did or like Mike did, they're like, well, I don't know if I really need a barbershop, but I'm here anyway. So I own that for myself. But one silly funny thing and then one not so silly funny thing. I don't always date myself on this show, and Dave will back me up on this. When we went to college, Facebook was literally a book. So I know the guy came from my school later on. He said, let me take this idea and digitize it. But when we went to school, they gave you a book. Like, here's everybody in your class, open the book, find out who's from your hometown and blah, 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 blah. So, but I say that to be funny and self-effacing, I guess. But I also say it because I'm inspired by what you said. And I was thinking about what Mike Deutsch said before about the social media is not necessarily the technology, but it's something that we use and we can use. And what you were saying about me pulling, as everybody since Jaren's been doing, pulling people from their network. Other people should tell themselves about who they're pulling in from their network to be here, right? If I've learned anything, if any of us learn anything, we want to reach back and pull someone along. I think that is a very important part of transformation. And full transparency, we're using this medium and we've tried out different stuff too. We did some on WebEx and now we're doing Zoom. We put some on Facebook Live. Now we're putting them on YouTube. We are trying to attract to our audience people that we want to have this information so they can take action. And we're really focused tonight on what are the careers that that people need to be in and what do they need to know to be ready to get into those careers. So there's no mystery about why we're doing this. When we go back to work tomorrow and we're in the office, the virtual office, we're overseeing the programs, we're funding the programs, we're networking with other programs. This is like an add-on. Please make sure anybody that needs these programs doesn't miss out on these programs. Nobody gets paid extra to do these. And I'm not saying that because anyone's complaining about doing this, but it's like we need everybody to know what we're trying to do. But I know Annie's been dying to jump back in here, so I want to make sure we steer it back to Annie. I know Nuris is dying to jump back in here too. So I think we want to hear from Annie and Nuris, and we're going to send it back to Scott.
No, this was great. I'm taking notes now. So I forgot to mention where I work now. So, so I work for New York State Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, right? As a community liaison in that capacity, but I also run her Youth Advisory Council. And I think that COVID has taught us that you should definitely hire young people in the office, right? Because the transition to being in person in the office to working remote has helped me leverage my skills being the youngest person in the office. So just for example, like for working with collaborations, I do a lot of like group projects, and similar to this, like we host monthly events and give resources to the community. So I was able to like help the office transitions from working through like email to actually just working on Google Docs, right? And I taught everyone in the office, like, listen, this is how we share information with each other. It's on one document. But me being, well, working with Google Docs through college anyway, brought a leverage to my work and saved us a lot of time. That small thing from transitioning to emailing to just going on Google Docs saved time. So having a young person in the office teaches you that, right? And when you can't reach, I know Mike is on here, your IT person, who do you call?
I agree with you 1,000%, 1,000%.
Call Annie. She'll hook you up. She'll teach you how to use Zoom, WebEx, everything, right? Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and also working for the Senate Majority Leader. When we do promotion, now I can be like, guess what? I know how to use Instagram. So that's also a big help. So young people right now dealing with like COVID-19, I think like right now we can use that as a leverage. Having like a technical background or technology background, I'm not a specialist in IT in any means, but I just use these apps personally that now I can put it into my work. So it's definitely like leverage for us.
Norris?
Hi, so Sean, Mike, and Annie actually pretty much mentioned a lot of technological revolutions that are happening, right? Within the workforce side, because we serve young people, right? For as part of SYP, young people receive orientation, they receive work readiness training. But last year, because of pandemic, that in-person orientation or work readiness training was not possible. So we actually launched Heads and Ladders platform. It's a completely digital work readiness platform that we launched for SYP Summer Bridge. Through that platform, we had over 35,000 youth that received work readiness training, where the technology was pretty much what youth actually uses on daily basis on social media. So some of the feature was pretty youth friendly, right? When they have to swipe right. So like one of the work readiness component where they get to explore different career and to see what career field is right for them. Like this was possible through that app. And not only that, like, completely digital, youth were able to get help through their resume writing, cover letter writing. They also learn how to do mock interview. And if they're interested in exploring different careers, there are so many useful videos in terms of like, if you want to be a teacher, what is the day of teacher look like? If you want to be in public service, how the public service looks like. So when you're talking about this transformation, right? The technology transformation was happening before COVID, but I feel like, it accelerated a lot, right? Some of these things that we did last year probably would have taken another 6 or 7 years before we actually get to that. So there is this like, upside and downside of pandemic. And some of us were able to leverage that for our advantage and making sure that like, the services that we are providing is convenient for you. Before, they would have to go to a provider location, have to take an MTA or train on the weekend to receive that pre-employment training. Now they're able to receive it from their cell phone. So when government actually takes the lead on this kind of change, these are the things that like, if we have to like, think about what are some of the good things we are taking away from this pandemic. These are the changes that we need to make sure that we just don't use it during pandemic, but we actually use it as a best practice as we move forward to open our economy, hopefully soon.
Mr. Viney, and also I want just before Viney, I want you to come on, I want all our guests to really understand we have a chat on YouTube. So please open the chat. If you have questions, you can put your comments in the chat and we can try to get them into the show. Also, if you have a question for any of the panelists, make sure you go to the YouTube chat and enter your question and we'll do that. So Mr. Viney, throw your hat in the ring. Go ahead.
Oh no, actually, I'm listening to the young people, so I'm gonna pass and wait for the next question. So I'm good.
Okay, so my next question, we talk about societal change, and this is a big one because it's happening in real time. And I'm giving to my young ladies. I'm gonna ask Asia first. Just with Kamalisa coming into power, I should say coming into power or coming into this great office, how does it empower you as a woman in societal change now? And then Annie, I'll have you after that.
Well, okay. Besides her being a woman, she's also a Black woman. And I find it really inspiring because I remember last term, was it last term? I think it was last term where we were hoping for Clinton's wife, Hillary to be president, or at least something, and she didn't get that, and it was a real disappointment. But now the second time around, we get like this better upgrade because she's Black, of course. I feel like she's a good role model for me because I feel like I can actually do something. I could be more than what I think I can. And she really sets the bar high for me. And I appreciate that because we don't really have that many Black women in power like that. And it's a big deal.
Annie.
I totally agree with Asia. Shout out to all Black women for continuing to put their bodies on the line for us. Thank you. So I have like the pleasures for working for New York State Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the first woman in her role and the first Black woman in her role. So every single day I am inspired to change the world, every single day. And I think it's so important to have that representation now more than ever, where, especially in the political realm, where Black people are all the top of the conversations, right? And it's important to have representation that look like us at that table. Because if we're going to talk about us, we need to be at that table because we know what we want and what we need. So seeing Kamala Harris being VP definitely changed my mindset, and she broke glass ceilings. And again, like I know the saying that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and I'm always looking forward to stand on that shoulder. And yeah.
So when we talk about transforming society and the impact of monumental events, I think you've both described how you kind of internalized and operated and moving forward from what's a monumental event. But as we're transforming our own conversations, I need to hear from the young brothers on that same question. We have to be asking the young brothers and sisters, the young men and women, you know, like the same kind of questions. And if you don't have a reaction, you don't have a reaction. I know I have a reaction. I just want to hear from you first before I speak. But I have a very short story that I will tell you when it gets to be my turn again. So let's hear from the guys.
Come on, Jeff, jump in there.
It's very inspiring to me because I as well do have sisters of color, and like Asia was saying, how it gives her that push to be like, you know what, I could actually do something as well. Because like Annie was saying, building a table. To the young people watching this, I kind of have a mindset of I don't want to sit at a table and wait for that table to build. Instead, I want to build that table for myself and invite others to sit at my table. So her being vice president is definitely inspiring, and it's as a Black male, it shows that there's so many boundaries we could overcome as long as we all put our heads together.
Go ahead, Viney.
Yeah, thanks for letting me jump in on this one. I'm going to take a different perspective because I think we were here with Barack Obama, right, with President Obama, in terms of that sense of inspiration. And here we are with Vice President Kamala Harris. But I think what's critical is to ask this question, especially as I think about as an educator, which is, what are the resources? What is the type of instruction? What is the type of advisement that we need to be putting in our K through 12 system to give the proper opportunity from a systemic way for young Black girls and Black women to have the same level of opportunity and achievement as a Kamala Harris. And in this case, when we talk about it from an access to power, you know, what are the advisement structures that will allow Black women, especially like for me in a high school, what I think about as dean of students, are my young Black women, are my young Black girls, do they have the opportunity? Are we identifying them? Are we giving them voice? Are we making sure that we're cultivating them to say, hey, yes, you can go to a Howard University on a full ride. Yes, you can go to a Harvard University on a full ride. Yes, you need to be in these AP classes. Yes, let's identify and see what are indeed your talents, what is indeed your purpose, and what is the pinnacle of those careers that you may be trying to aspire to. Because when I think of a Kamala Harris or Vice President Harris, or when I think of a First Lady Michelle Obama, it's great to be inspirational. Love it. I have my 10-year-old, Mike's daughter, my daughter, knows each other, right? But it's so critical that we get past just the inspiration, because that's the part that can motivate the young people. But it's important that we as adults and those of us that are in our positions institutionally are putting in place the mechanisms that will allow them to get into those positions and have those opportunities.
You said so much. Symbolism is great, but what's that old phrase? Faith without works is hollow. Right? You have to have a program. You have to be willing to move things forward. So here's my personal share. I came to this agency in 2010, and when somebody first introduced the opportunity, like, you should go check for what they're doing, I looked at the leadership and I saw a Latinx woman was the commissioner of the agency, and Sean knows her well. This is how Sean and I met under her leadership. When I saw that they had a woman of color in charge, that to me was a strong illustration, not as symbolism, but like as a man of color coming in, I could probably get to work and do what I need to do, because I don't have to worry about translating every single thing, why I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do to advance alleviating the conditions of poverty, to promote equity, the things that I've been allowed to do over the past 11 years. So symbolism is nice, symbolism is important, but I'm glad I shut up and wait for what you said, Almighty, because it's like being able to get a program together is so important. And I can think of anecdotal conversations I had with people over the years of the Obama administration, where they thought, oh, because a certain person is the president, now everything is fixed and solved, as opposed to now that there's a person who's in a position of authority over there, I can come with my well-developed plans and ideas, and I can find an audience so that together we can move things forward. Huge difference in thinking.
No, I agree. I actually want to take what Mike just said, and a quick anecdote came in my mind real quick. Maybe like a year ago, Asia and I were playing with someone who I lovingly call a nephew, right? And he's like 6 years old, and he has his little figurine, and I have a figurine, and she has a figurine. And he made up the rules. He said, okay, if you do this, you run super fast, and then you have a extraordinary jump, and we would do it, and we would win. And he was like, no, now I have a super bomb, so you can't do that jump. So there's a super force field, so you can't do that either. And by the time we got to the end, there was like no way to go, because every time we would win or take a step forward, right, there would be a new rule that came in that blocked the whole thing, right? And
what does that sound like?
I know, right? So I take that same concept and I hear what Amani is saying from a systemic level of change and transformation. I actually want to pass this to David, right? What are some ideas, some things that are happening from a systemic level where we can say, hey, we're going to create change for this workforce, for youth, so they can be the entrepreneurs that we hear on this table and everything going forward?
Yeah, thank you. There are some, and Elmani, I really resonated with what you were saying about we get people inspired and then it's like, where's the path, right? And so one example I often talk about is the de-inspiration, when people get sticker shock about what it's going to cost to get the training or the education or the degree. I mean, people here have talked about the classes that they're thinking about taking and the credentials they already have. In Annie's case, as a bachelor's degree and amazing career from that degree, right? That's one of the things you need to move that forward. And the other young people are moving forward with amazing ideas. But when people find out the price, they get discouraged. We inspire them with President Obama, Vice President Harris, and then they go see, well, how could I follow that path? And, you know, in both those cases and so many others, education was one of the enablers of those success stories. And people find out how much it costs, and they walk away. They stop. They don't even look any further. And so we can, to use Mike's point about we can have the old beat up car with the 8-track or the fancy self-driving fast car, but those are really both still cars. We need to transform the idea that individuals are responsible for paying for their own job training, upgrading skills, college education. The big picture transformation is viewing this like a public good, right? No one asks you to pay for K-12. Generally, K-12 is provided by public education. I mean, you can go to private school, but most people get 90-something% go to public high school and public grade school. And we don't have anything like that for college, right? People know that there's public colleges, but they don't know what they cost. And so if we can instead move towards the radical idea, which is a transformation of the sticker price is zero. You know, you're not going to pay the tuition. This is something that society is going to take care of. That you can suddenly have people think differently about what they need. You also don't have to talk always about this bundle. We have to transform worker training and education of this bundle, right? Because I am sure that all of the different things that go into a degree, each of them has different parts. Sean talked about the social capital you get from being around other students and teachers and learning just about how the world works. And then there's the classes you take as well. Those are probably less important than the social capital. But how do we unbundle that so you don't have to buy all of it at once? So there are a huge, you know, and you can literally take the classes or the trainings that matter for you at that moment and have lifelong learning. So these are transformational things that people are just beginning to do. You know, there is a movement for free college, but there are a number of things that we can talk about some more. I don't want to monopolize the time, but El Mani, when you talk about a systemic change that doesn't just give hope but gives a pathway, that's what we need to be building.
Good, Sean. You want to jump in, Sean?
Yeah. I just wanted to, you know, what everyone said, Omani, and what David just said. When we're thinking about transforming, I'm even thinking about even my own children, and I think that there are enough resources in this nation, particularly when we intersect the private and public sectors, to create a robust gap year opportunity for our young people. You know, back in the day, there was something like Peace Corps, right? When you graduated from college and decided what you wanted to do. But I firmly believe
or America
that between high school and college, there needs to be a structured, funded, resourced gap year that exposes young people, gets them ready for that pathway, for that sense of hope that they are developing, because we are losing so many of our young people in this pipeline, right? And even with COVID-19, in K-12, there are young people, and Amani will attest to this, that we don't know where they are, right? They have fallen off, and so we have to do something that is, I think, drastic. And I think one of the things that, you know, COVID-19 was horrible, but it was an accelerant on a number of ways, right? Both positive and negative, right? And, you know, before the pandemic, oh no, we can't provide, you know, our young people with laptops and everything like that. But the pandemic came, all of a sudden, a laptop for everyone so you can work from home. And I think that this is a golden opportunity for us to reimagine how we look at the future, how we center young people, like we have them centered on this conversation here in the barbershop, and the traditional paths. I think we need to blow up. And I'm just going to close with this quote. This might be the last thing I say. We still got another hour. I might say something. But I've been running with this quote from this, provided me with a lot of professional and personal mission fuel from an Indian novelist, Arundhati Roy. And she said, actually a year ago, we were at the onset of the pandemic, Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. If we are going to disrupt the status quo, right now is the time and the opportunity to do it.
All right, we're gonna go to Norris, and then we're gonna go to Mike D after that. Go ahead. No.
Thank you, Scott. I agree with you, Sean. And as we are talking about, unemployment, right? Right now, the unemployment rate is very high. But if you particularly look at the young people has always had high unemployment rate. And as we are thinking about bringing back folks back to work, it's important that we are thinking about our young people and how we can prepare them for the future of work. Because if you look at, especially New York City's economy, the industry sectors that New York City typically relied on, it's not the same anymore. The landscape has completely changed. So as we are thinking about preparing our workforce, it's important to making sure we are making our youth as part of the solution and making sure that they are receiving the credentials or the skill set that they need in order to compete in a very tough job market. So just wanted to throw this out there.
So Jeff, I want you to come in from, and then Annie, I got you after Jeff.
So adding back on to what Almani said about finding that program. So I happen to be a part of Obama's My Brother Keepers Alliance, but I only got invited to be in it my junior year of high school. So my first 3 years of high school, I absolutely knew nothing about it. And the only reason why I was able to be a part of that program was because I was president of a club called Black Heritage Alliance. And with that club, we would host shows, and it was basically the Black Student Union from my high school. But I happened to become district president for My Brother's Keepers. And with that program, it made me feel like someone, because to attend that workshop, we would dress up in suits and ties, and it would all be men of color. So with doing that, we could definitely have that for females as well, females of color, but we could break the aspect to it where all should be invited,
Annie, I see it's heating up. So Annie, and then Viney, you after Annie, okay? I got to jump in there. I want to make sure, once again, people who are on YouTube, if you have something to say, throw it in chat. Go ahead, Annie.
I just want to thank Almani for posing that question. And I think that we can start with creating a safe space where Black women and youth feel comfortable at the job, voicing our concerns and our voices, right? So creating that safe space. And then also creating a safe space for innovation with that too, and being open-minded. So when I do come into this workforce, that I can use my prior experience that I have just for being me and apply it to my work, and it's okay to do that, right? So first, it's like creating that safe space. And similar to Jeff, knowing about resources sooner in life. Like, I didn't know about Ladders for Leaders until college, and that one experience changed my career path. So learning about it sooner in life helps. So that's what I wanted to say.
Avani?
Yeah, I think I'm going to speak strictly from the secondary level. I think there's a big elephant in the room that has to be addressed, because all of these components are symptoms to, I think, a deeper root issue. But I think is important if we're talking about advancing, moving our young people forward, men and women, moving the workforce forward. And that is that school systems are not designed to be intentional about the desired outcomes for the young people, with the exception of graduation rates. We'll talk ambiguously, we'll say graduation rates or college rates. But what we do not have intentionally is to say, we want to see, if we're talking about the workforce, school systems are not saying, we want, for example, I'm dean of class of 2024. So here's what we're not doing. We're not saying for the class of 2024, we expect 20% of them to be CEOs by 2040. We're expecting 35% to dominate the technological industry. We're expecting 40% of Black women or women of color that come from the class of 2024 to be entrepreneurs. Now, why is that level of specificity important? Because now, if that's your quote unquote begin with what does that book say? I think it's Jim Collins, begin with the end in mind. What it then forces us to do is ask the question, what are the form of resources, advisement, mentorship, coaching, and curriculum redesign that we have to do beginning in 9th grade to put our young people on that particular trajectory?
Yep.
That's critical, because what's the ugly elephant in the room is the number of graduating seniors that we have. And you ask them, hey, what are you doing afterwards? They have no idea. A kid playing football and playing Pee-wee football, day one knows their objective is to win the championship. A young person, thanks, Sean. Yeah, Stephen Covey's seven highly effective 7 elements of being highly effective stated that. My last point is that in almost every other institution, there's a level of clarity and specificity about the end goal. I think in order for us to see success for our young people, we institutionally in school districts, especially on the secondary level, have to have a deeper level of specificity beyond simply graduation rates or who's going off to some form of post-secondary institution.
Well, Ivani, and I'm going to, Dave, I think I'm going to pass this on to you, because I know when you say that, then I start thinking about people designing their own career paths and designing their own degrees so they can say, well, you know what, this is what I like to, because they, you know, everybody says you got to go to college, you got to get some type of, you got to get that lambskin so that you can put it on your wall. And nowadays you have to have a master's degree, a doctorate degree, just to get an intern job, you know, like, so how can we maybe help, or is it even imaginable of youth starting to design their own degrees, their own career paths, so that or even taking some of their life skills and throwing it in the pot and saying, listen, like our young people who are entrepreneurs, some things they're learning as entrepreneurs now, you can't pay in college. You can't find that kind of skill and knowledge in college. You won't find it until afterwards. And I know that because I know I've gotten invited to a lot of colleges to speak to social workers about fathers. And the things I tell caseworkers in college about what it means to interact with men who are fathers, they go, well, where was that in the book? It's not. And it will never be in the book. So, Dave.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And it's the combination between that work-based learning, that real learning that happens on the job in life, and the expectations that Elmani just said. That you say to folks, the goal for you, the expectation for you, the career track you want to try at is this. And then you say, but you can get there without having to invest this massive amount of upfront time only in classrooms. Because not all learning happens in classrooms. You're talking about social workers who don't know what it's really like to actually do the job of social work. And so they're reading books about it. And there's no substitute for classroom learning. It's very important. I use the classroom learning that I had once upon a time all the time, but I also use life experience. What we need to do in terms of transforming education systems is a blend, which is called credit for prior learning. That is to say, we give people on a college transcript actual college credits for what they learned as an entrepreneur, you know, doing the work that Asia and Jeff and Annie did in their free college lives, you know, and others are doing as entrepreneurs, as young workers, doing interesting things. And then it will be cheaper and faster with less debt for them to ultimately get that college degree, because there'll be a few lines on that transcript called credit for prior learning. for we're going to give you college credit for what you did in the real world. And if you tell people that pathway when they are in ninth grade, is that what the class of 2024 are? They're ninth graders? Yeah. If you tell them that in ninth grade, then they get a little more excited about, because young people have these terrific ideas. We've heard from a couple of them already, 3 of them, who've done exciting things when they were still in high school and right after college, right after high school, before college. They think that's disconnected from getting that degree. The degree is going to be important, but you need to be able to get credit for prior learning and work-based learning to be more a part of what we do. That is something the system, the higher ed system, Elmani's talking about the secondary ed system. The higher ed system's not ready for this. They need to get ready for this. And they do a little bit of it now. We actually have a number of pilots on it. And I will put a plug in. We've done a project on that here in New Jersey, work-based learning, what we call apprenticeship, but it's a new form of apprenticeship that leads to a degree, a college degree apprenticeship. So there is a new pathway that says something to that ninth grader that we're not seeing today.
And I thank you for that. And I would definitely say, because I do believe like college is not for everybody. Because I know some guys who are skilled hand workers, and they making some big bucks. Because a lot of folks can't do the work. I'm just thinking about the boiler guy who came out and put the boiler in my church, and these guys made a whole bunch of money off of us by putting a boiler in, but none of them got a college degree. Okay? And then those of us who have college degrees, how much money we're still paying back years later because we have this college degree. Yes. But also, I want to say that in short, I see about we have to invest back in our own communities also. And I know that we do a lot, especially here at DYCD. We're doing very good work with MWBEs and getting them more involved in the situation we're doing. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, but then I maybe bounce to Mike too, also talk about those opportunities that we're working with in DYCD also.
So I just wanted to quickly say this has been a great conversation, and there's more than one elephant in the room, right? And Elmani lifted up one, and I think structural racism is another elephant that is in the room that is inherent in transformation, right? And dismantling structures. And I put in the chat that part of the conversation, right, is how do we invest in businesses and entrepreneurs of color, right? When we look at the data and we look at venture capitalists and investment, the disparities on how capitalization has happened. And I remember the story that Randall Pinkett was telling one day, a Jerseyite, right? He went into a Dunkin' Donuts with his son. And he said, I think that the ownership of this Dunkin' Donut franchise has changed. And his son said to him, how do you know that? And he said, well, 2 weeks ago, it was mostly Filipino employees. And now we have mostly Middle Eastern. And they asked the question, right, did the ownership change? And it did change. And it changed from a Filipino owner to a Middle Eastern owner, right? And the moral of the story that Randall said to his son is that this is why we have to be in business so that we can employ our own, right? And so that's not a cry for racism or prejudice, but we hire folks we know from our community, colleges that we go to, the folks that we are familiar with. So I don't think that we can have this conversation about transforming the workforce without at the same time, on the other side, how are we building and investing in businesses and entrepreneurs of color?
Well, I had to jump in with that one real quick because Sean just threw a bomb right there. I think one of the other areas when we talk about that level of one, elephants in the room, and two, changes that need to occur. I'm gonna speak from a parental space, right? I think even as parents. So growing up, I grew up in a Caribbean household, and what that means as it relates to workforce, you had like three career choices. You're either gonna be an engineer, lawyer, or a doctor. That's pretty much what that looked like. Anything outside of that, you were going against the norm. I say that to say, building out the career that I did, even as my favorite title that I get to give Asia is my daughter, even as I watched her grow, when I saw her make the biggest change is when I got out the way and gave her the tools, right? And so from different styles to even when she started her own business in the middle of the pandemic, my question, I'm going to pivot to the youth entrepreneurs, Jeff and Asia. I'll start with Asia and then I'm going to pass it over to Jeff. What made you break the norm and say, I'm going to do it this way with all the other barriers that seem to come around, right? What made you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do it this way. I did the SYP thing, was cool, whatever, or I might have did this thing, was cool, but I'm going to step out and change it up and bring in those life skills that maybe I can accredit to what David was talking about. So Asia, you want to start off and then give it to Jeff?
Okay, so to be honest, I can't remember what year I stopped doing SYEP, but I had stopped because it was just a summer job and I was getting older and I wanted more money. So I started working at JC Penney. Did not like it. I did it for like a year and a half. I did not like it. I just can't do retail. It was just a horrible job. And I feel as though if you're gonna work, you should enjoy your job. If you're just going to work just to get a paycheck, that's not the way to live. So I started watching, I don't know when, but I started getting into nail videos and it was just satisfying to watch, especially like when they put the gel polish on and everything. It was just a satisfying process. So I had told my mom about it, and my mom, she got me a polygel nail kit, and I started doing my nails on my own. And I was always the type of girl to like upkeep my nails at home or whatever. So when I started doing my own nails, it was even more satisfying than watching the videos, and it became a hobby. And then I decided that I wanted to turn my hobby into a job. And I'm not completely stepping out of the norms because I'm still in college. I want to be part of law enforcement, but I am making the most of my hobby and making it a side hustle, because in this day and age, you need a side hustle. You need one. If you don't have one, get one. So this is what I'm doing. And I love it because I mean, I do have my off days where I don't want to do nails, but I enjoy my job. And that makes me want to continue to do it because I enjoy it. I don't I don't I don't dread going to work every day.
Jeff, you want to jump on that?
Yes, adding on to what Asia said, I wanted to just become my own boss. You know, I was tired of working for people. I as well worked in retail. I still work in retail. I was working for Hollister and I was doing all this great work and I wanted to take more lead, you know, I wanted to have a higher position and they wouldn't grant that to me because of my age. So I was like, all right, all right. So I left the company. I did what I had to do. I went to another company and with the recording music studio, the background to that was I had a group of friends who are currently still my friends. They're more like brothers to me now, where I personally don't rap, I don't sing, none of that. I can't sing. So they were the ones who would rap and sing, but we would always be together and we would always go down to Manhattan and pay $400 for a day, not even a day, a couple of hours, and get the music recorded. And it wouldn't even be time efficient because the first time going in there, they would be so nervous and they couldn't finish. It was always a constant amount of $400, sometimes more, going and going. If it was Friday or Saturday, you would pay extra because it was just a weekend. So instead, we said to ourselves, you know what? That $400 we're investing all the time. Why don't we invest it in ourselves? So what we had done was we worked every day. We created literally what we had was an envelope. It said studio savings. And every paycheck we would get, we each would put money into it. It was four of us. We each would put money into it until we reached our goal. Our goal was initially $5,000, but we had came up with the goal of $10,000 because we were just putting into it. So we was planting that seed to nourish the flower. So with that being said, is, you know, you have to, for everybody watching this, especially the youth out there, investing in yourself is the best idea you could ever do. Like Asia said, that side hustle, you need it, because not only does it teach you how to be a boss for yourself, but it brings you with skills of leadership and discipline. Because with COVID happening, you know, I lost family members and I was tired of seeing people hurt, you know. That's why I became an EMT. That's why I took that course. But what Sean was saying earlier and David was saying, that where is the funding that the kids need? Because when they see the prices to it, they can't afford it. Because when I went to my EMT school, I couldn't afford it. I had to take 3 jobs to be able to afford it, you know. So I did it and I'm here now.
All right, so we're gonna go to Norris and then we're gonna go to Sean. I saw your hand up, Sean. So Norris and Sean.
Yeah, Jeff, such an inspiring story. I'm so blown away by what I just heard. So great job with everything you're doing. But wanted to touch base on what Elmani and David mentioned earlier about graduation rate. Because if you look at the graduation rate, it's up, right? But are we really preparing our youth or our future workforce to enter workforce? Because I can use my example. After I graduated from college, my very first job was at DYCD. But I remember like the first or second day, my boss gave me a job. It deals with Excel. And I had no idea how to use Excel. And I received a college degree, but college didn't teach me any of those. Right away, the very first thing I had to do is go into YouTube and start looking at those Excel courses. So I literally spent 4 years of college only to learn that Excel skill on YouTube. So it's as we are moving into like, you know, this technology surrounded world, right? Because a lot of people are now working from home. And I believe Annie mentioned earlier how young people are so tech savvy and they are the first line of people that are being called on whenever there is any tech related issues. And one thing I saw with especially DYCD, as you know, we run a lot of youth workforce program. And after that, like, you know, last September, we started Career Ready WLG, which is a year-round workforce program. As part of that program, youth get to take College Now courses, and once they finish the College Now courses, they were actually placed in internship. Because of the pandemic, majority of our placement was remote internship. What we saw, because of the remote internship, there was higher demand from employers in terms of skill set. They are looking for more specific skills. And I'm talking about these are high school students, right? And they are looking for youth who knows how to do Excel, youth who know how to do Adobe software, digital marketing. So these kind of skill set the employers are looking for. And as these things being like, you know, the remote work being normalized, there will be those specific skill set employers is going to look for. So who plays this role of preparing our young generation with the specific skill set that the employers need? And I feel like that's why I believe Almani and David mentioned how we have to reimagine our education system, making sure we are teaching the youth the skill set that necessary for them to succeed at workplace, not only get them for a job, but to succeed.
And I want to jump in because I saw Mike Deutsch. I forgot. Sean, you can go after Mike Deutsch. So Mike Deutsch, you go, and then Sean.
Exciting. So, I mean, I just want to say I've been listening for a while now, and I appreciate, Mike, that you invited me to this, because as a tech guy, we usually don't get invited to where real conversation's happening. We usually get the filtered down version through the business office, through the business analyst, and then it comes to us and we build a system for people. So I really appreciate, you know, just being able to listen to people talk. A couple of things that I just wanted to mention. First, Annie, I really appreciated what you said about bringing the young people into the workforce. In my team and in IT in general, you cannot build a good IT system unless you have enough diversity. And normally that's focused around race and things like that. But really diversity around age is important too. I mean, you have experience coming in from the older people, but unless you have young people come in and really bring in new ideas that you didn't even know about, you're not going to get what you need. So I really appreciated that. But some of the conversation was taken on, how do I get into that workforce? I have to go to school for so many years. The cost is so high. One of the reasons I do like IT so much is you do not need to always have that highest degree, right? You can get into IT at a fairly entry level job with a fairly high pay salary, with a couple of months worth of either on your own, going to vocational school, taking classes. I know a lot of people that ask me, I'm going into IT, what should I do? I really like fixing computers. And I tell people, don't even go, that's a hobby. That is not IT anymore. IT, you have to focus on really two primary areas, and that's data and security. The amount of job openings out in the environment today are just a couple of months, learn a little, do Excel, do SQL, do Python scripting is the way to go. You learn that and you can almost definitely get into a position, because every company in the entire world uses two things: data and security. Everybody needs it. Nobody has enough people to do it. You can go from industry to industry to industry, whether it's a two-person industry like a nail salon. Somebody has to look at that data to try to get new clients in, or you're talking about IBMs and Googles and Microsoft. So it's a skill that can be taken almost anywhere to any industry, and the ramp up time to get in there is much lower than going to PhD and another 30 years of school and $300,000 in. So I urge people, if you are looking into getting into technology, and technology is great, not just because I'm in it, but because you feel like you can control the world with technology, if you will. You are the gatekeeper to everything. Businesses don't run without technology. I'll make Mike attest to that. He can't run his stuff because he's got to go into a system. It's got to be run. Reporting has to come out. It has to be there. Everybody needs it, and it's a great field to go into. So I encourage people to look into it.
Mike, real quick, Mike, just if you can add into just that project that you're working on right now with bringing access to broadband to like all the community centers that we're currently working with Cornerstone, just so people understand some of the projects that's out there, that would be awesome.
Oh, sure. So this is actually coming through the mayor's office of the CTO, along with DYCD. So a lot of our Cornerstone centers, which are in NYCHA facilities, the community centers there, they did not have broadband. I mean, I was being told that people would go on site and try to get onto the internet and could not even download a video. It was slower than modem dial-up. That's how bad it was. So they came to us, especially when the pandemic hit, and they said, okay, we have all these people, they can't go to school, they have to remote learn. There's no way for them to do it. We have community centers. How can we assist them in doing that? So we worked with actually this fantastic company. The name is slipping my head off the top. They're a nonprofit organization. They work around the entire country, usually around disasters. They picked the pandemic as being, I guess a natural disaster as well. NTDRT, I believe his name is. And they came in and they installed broadband to about 50 sites, 30 sites across our Cornerstone Learning Lab programs. They did it all for free, but that only gave you, Wi-Fi access, right? It allowed people to go from a DOE school with a DOE tablet, walk into any community center and be immediately connected to the internet. On top of that, we're actually improving broadband across all of these sites. So we can make sure that people can not only that if they're in school, they can go there, but people in the community can go there. They can even stay outside the building if it's a nice day and get internet access. And it's just a way that we can just get people to the resources that they need. The internet is no longer nice to have. It is a utility. It is a necessity, just like gas, just like water. It is a necessity for everybody to use. And unless you're providing that for everyone in a way that it can actually be consumed by people, you're really leaving a whole part of this country in the behind. And it's really we can only do what we can with what we have, but every little thing works to make it better.
Okay, Brother Dove.
I defer to Elmani. What you saw was me doing a clap. That was a clap. Something somebody was saying. I wasn't raising my hand.
Oh, okay. Anyone else want to jump in?
Elmani, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in this part of the conversation about workforce. I think I want to go back to the high school end, because I think and actually just in terms of two issues that we need to fix. The first one is really about the intent of school. And the reality is that we're still rooted into the scientific management system of the Industrial Revolution. Now, just to bring it up to speed, what that means is we're simply just processing and managing kids through. We're not transforming kids. That word transformational is so important, meaning we're not creating a system in our schools to whereas the desired intent is to be transformational with them. I think the other thing as we look at the workforce, and I hear the term workforce, and I totally get where everybody's coming from. But I think it's so important because we're also talking about entrepreneurs here, that we create environments that are cultivating the skills and purpose of young people and providing that platform. And the reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of times we do like to say, hey, here's where the jobs are, here's where the jobs are. And we'll shift our school narrative or culture or information that we provide based on that. But if you're an artist, then are you getting left out? If you're someone who desires to go into education, are you one that gets left out? And so what I'm saying is that I think while we understand what the workforce is, we have to, I think, reshape our narrative around it to be one that's really about cultivating the purpose and skills. Like my son is a STEM kid, so IT would be totally up his, up his alley, right? So making sure that, okay, we see you, my son's name is Lorenzo. So we see you, Lorenzo. We see that IT is for you. We know that that's what you want to delve in. So our school culture and environment is based all around cultivating that for you so that when you leave, you're able to enter into that. And the same thing for entrepreneurs. I'll say two last points that's on my mind here. I do think about entrepreneurs. We need to be more intentional in our school systems about instituting, just like we got College and Career Center, expanding that to whereas entrepreneurism is part of that center, because entrepreneurism transcends any age, and that's the reality. My son has owned his own. He's 16 now, but he's owned his own handyman business, and I will tell you point blank, he has more money in his handyman services at 16 than I had at 22 in my bank account with a graduate of Boston College with 2 degrees. Go figure. Let's go figure. And that leads me to my last point. I think we let colleges off the hook. I think we get just so enamored about kids saying they got into college. Like that becomes the barometer. And so what happens is that colleges get let off the hook in terms of what are they providing in terms of real world skills? What are they providing in terms of making sure that the young people that go in, that you have to go to college to become successful? And what do we continue to see? We continue to see a society whereas kids are being successful in spite of having these degrees, because what's being offered, even in the top type of college, even in the top elite colleges, is now becoming less and less relevant to the day-to-days of society. So in my opinion, we got to put more pressure on colleges to say, okay, we're no longer going to say, oh, congrats, our kid got into XYZ university. That can't no longer be the barometer. It has to be, okay, that's nice, but what are going to be the real world skills, the relevancy that you're going to provide, young person X and Y, so that when they go out here, they absolutely thrive. And I've said it, and I'm going to say it here. I feel like it's post-secondary extortion. And I'm just being honest, because you're right. When you talked about, it's not even that college isn't for everyone. It's where does even college fit in to people's lives? And I think that's a hard question we got to ask. All right. I'm good.
Scott, tag me in. Scott, tag me in. Oh my God.
Yeah, Jerry, because I was going.
Jerry's head
Because college,
exploded. I watched it happen.
yeah, because college to me ain't nothing but a big bank. Go ahead,
First
Jerry.
of all,
You
Omani,
and Jerry,
thank
you got it.
Thank you. I would just want to say thank you. I want to lead off with one of your statements, letting colleges off the hook. Let's call certain things a spade what it is, right? And so a lot of times the education pipeline, especially when you're talking about college, doesn't necessarily equip you for life, right? It equips you to be a good employee, and that's if there's space in the workforce to do that. So I'm actually gonna, with all of my excitement, I actually want to redirect my energy to first the ladies and the youth. What are some things you can motivate others, your team, to take those internships, be creative and start your own entrepreneurship, be advocates for yourself? You heard David talking about making sure that you get credit for those life experience. So I want to pivot to you all with the understanding that, yes, college really is built for you to be a really good employee if there's even space in that level of workforce for you. So what can you do to break that? So again, we're talking about transformational change. So I want you to be as innovative in your thought as well as intentional when you come about, starting with you, Annie, and then we'll give it to Asia.
Thank you for the question. I think one of the issues I had being a college student was able to provide for myself, right? And go after these internships that were free, and I couldn't afford to like apply for them because I had to work. So one way that is an incentive, paid internships, right? Paid apprenticeships, please pay, like, because if you don't, you're leaving out a group of people that can't even afford to get to the opportunity because they don't have the time or the money to do it. So, and I'm in my early 20s now, and I see my friends are struggling in their 20s because they want to go for these opportunities, but they just can't afford it because they have real adult bills. So one way is incentives, funding. And I think Lattice for Leaders is a great example on having internships that pay you well. Because at that internships, I didn't have to worry about my travel fee, because NTA is expensive, right? And I also had money to give my mom money towards rent and stuff. So paid internships. Second, mentorships, right? So when I do enter the workforce, I'll have a champion who can vouch for me and build those connections that I couldn't afford. Because one of the reasons I went to college was for networking. So those two.
Well, we have a lot of people waiting to chime in. Asia, I think you're next, and then it's funny because we're all laughing because one of our technical guys said that he got his student loan bill before he got his diploma. the bill showed up before the diploma. So we're
How about that? Yeah.
Go ahead, Asia.
I agree with Annie with the paid internships, but I also feel like society and schools, I don't want to say should stress college less, but stress other options more. Like stress trades, stress trade school, stress other options besides college, because we all know that once you get your degree, it's just a piece of paper. And most people, they wind up not even getting a job in the area that, in the field that they got the degree for. So I feel like if you stress other options more, that'll open the door for people to look at, for youth to look at other opportunities and not just think the goal is college. And that's how I feel, because growing up, the goal was college. I'm gonna get into college. I'm gonna be in law enforcement. And you think that your path is set, but it's really not, because to be honest, I don't even know what's gonna really happen when I graduate college. So I feel like we should put more emphasis on other options besides just college.
Good, Norris.
Go, Norris.
You're muted.
Mute.
There you
Happens to
go.
me all the time. And you are such a great ambassador of Ladders for Leaders program, you know. When I started Ladders, actually started working with Ladders for Leaders, after a few months, I was like, I wish I knew about Ladders for Leaders, because when I was in college, I remember all my internships were unpaid because I wanted to be in public sector, and public sector don't pay their interns. So when I first started, I was like, oh, I wish I knew about it in college. So few things, right? Especially with Ladders for Leaders, last few years, we were able to connect so many life-changing experience, because every year we place the students, but the best news we get around September when we start hearing from the interns saying that, oh, I just received an offer to continue employment as full-time employee. And with Ladders for Leaders, we have over 30% retention rate when it comes to, like, you know, post program employment. So when we have, like, you know, we're in 2021, and the fact that we're still talking about unpaid internship is very, like, you know, very ridiculous idea. And the fact that it leaves behind people who are not uh, able to take an unpaid internship. So if I have to pay for my college, if I have to take the MTA, which is like $5 now two-way, and then if you have to buy lunch, if you are placed in an internship in Manhattan, lunch costs so much money. It's $10 if you just get some salad, or it's even more for if you go for expensive stuff. So I think that's where the role of DYCD comes into play. It's not just Ladders for Leaders. We do have so many amazing workforce program. So many of you have participated in SYP. There is also Career Ready SYP that I lead, and we work with select school from neighborhood throughout New York City. Not only, like, you know, providing them with internship, but life-changing skill set that they need in order to succeed. So I'm just plugging in about our workforce program, and especially those of who are watching, please make sure to take advantage of those programs, because these programs are designed for you. If you have participated, if you know someone else who could benefit from those programs, please spread those word, because, you know, right now is a time, it's not the most easy thing to get an internship, paid internship, or a summer job. Because I remember when we actually last year, the cancellation of SYP was announced, right? It's the young people who took the lead. Young people, I remember going on Twitter, because, you know, SYP is pretty much all life right now. And when it was canceled, I saw on Twitter the young people taking the lead against this decision. And because of their activism, because of their action, there was SYP summer.
You remember? Yeah. You remember a couple of months ago when I started talking about capitalism and then I lost the signal? Did you see how as soon as he started talking about the community rising up and demanding SYP, he got frozen up? That's not Mike. That's not Mike. There's forces outside of Mike. Finish what you were saying, Nurse. I want to say something, but finish what you were saying. Oh, he's still frozen.
No, so like I was so inspired by that. I know. Can you guys hear me? I know we're DYCD staff member, but the young people and the action that they took for their future was so encouraging to see. And sometimes we talk about young people being only active on social media. It's not the case anymore. The young people are taking the fight. If they have to take the street, they are going to the street and taking the fight there. So I'm so encouraged by our young people, and hope to, like, you know, connect more young people with life-changing experience, so we could have more people like Annie, who has been a great ambassador of our program and have benefited a lot. So
I
that's my
love what you said. I love what you said. And I love where we are in this conversation. I wanted to touch on it briefly because I really felt what Elmani said, and I love watching Jerry's head explode when we were talking about post-secondary education. And it reminded me of what Sean said earlier. I didn't see Jerry's head explode, but when you talked about structural racism, and I don't want to do a get into some long thing about class and structure, but I think along with dealing with how race informs structure, class informs structure, and I'm resisting saying some of the things I want to say, but I want to identify those things. And what I love about where we are in this conversation is that there's truth telling. We're recognizing structures exist, and we recognize there are historical reasons how they've come into being, and they may reinforce certain things. And I think what I've heard anecdotally a lot is we have young people, and I can tell pieces of my story, and other people tell pieces of their story, where they have tried to navigate, well, here's what the system is presenting, but almost, so what do I want? What is it that I'm trying to do? Contending with, navigating, and moving around systems as they exist. But you couldn't have served that up any better, Nurse, because you're talking about the opportunity for younger people and for older people, frankly, to challenge the system and speak about the systems that need to be revised, to put it kindly. Remember, we talked in a prior session about movers and shaker. Some aspects of a system may need to be dismantled and rebuilt from the ground up. But in the meanwhile, we can't afford to lose any of our young people. They have to make moves right now. So, and I know Annie's still chomping at the bit. I want to give it back to Annie, but I'm loving this flow right now where everyone who's listening can take heart and encouragement and be inspired and think about what are the practical things that I can do. This is a 3-month series we've been doing about what? Transformation. We went from personal to family and community. And now as we're talking about societal transformation, there's how do we speak up and gather our tribe and speak up in the interest of transforming what we see around us in ways that we cannot do by ourselves, while we're hearing all these examples of people saying, well, where I am at, this is how I'm transforming my situation. You can't beat it. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you for that, Mike. I just want to go back and say, I agree with Scott and what everyone else is saying, that sometimes college is not always the answer, and that's okay. But just how we put in resources into college, like into internships, we can also do that for apprenticeships. So for your trades fields, we can also pump in money so that they can hire people that wouldn't be afforded these opportunities. Because working in government, I see this now, that a lot of the contracts that are happening and through the city is like because of who you know, right? And a lot of like public work, I'm saying this, is because of who you know. So like if you know when a city test is coming out and you have a lineage of people in your family who have worked for the city, and they know what to expect on that test and the hiring practices. Just like Jeff, he is an EMT now, right? I don't think that he should have had to pay for those courses, right? There needs to be a program where youth know about it and they're funded for courses that give them certifications to be in the workforce. Give them a leg up at least, right?
And you know, Amy, thanks for raising that, because while we've experienced a horrific pandemic, we've lost a lot of lives. The 10% of the most wealthiest people in this nation have gained. We have seen record stock market returns over the last year. The big corporations have expanded their net worth. So there are resources, right? And someone talked earlier about holding colleges accountable. We have to hold the private sector, these corporations, accountable as well at the same time, because there are resources. And you know, and something that Elmani said about the intent of education, right? Is the intent really to create entrepreneurially minded and spirited individuals, or is it the intent for folks to work below living wage at Amazon warehouses and have, you know, multiple jobs to create more momentum for, you know, big corporations, and just being able to call all of that out. The resources are there.
Wow. Folks, we're really on fire, and we're doing some some real yeoman's work in learning about what we need to do. We got a few more minutes, and we're gonna get ready to start wrapping up. But I want to just before we go into the transition, before we wrap it up, I want to make sure that if anybody didn't get in, I know everybody started hitting the chat on the side saying, I want in, I want in. This is your chance to get in before we get to go to the wrap up. So please, we may have to do a part two. Dave, I saw your hand go up, Dave.
Yeah, thanks. Let me unmute real quick. So, yeah, I mean, we talked about paid internships. I mean, you know, I mean, there's two reasons why unpaid internships exist, two structural reasons. One is employers like to get people to work for free, but that shouldn't, you know, be enabled by post-secondary education. I love El-Mani's reformulation of that. We have a second reason why unpaid internships exist, and that is a fundamental mistake in the college system that if it's paid, I don't want you benefiting twice. I don't want to give you college credit if you also got money. That is crazy. And that is really where the whole idea of, well, if it's unpaid, then they must have been giving you an education because they weren't giving you money. There's absolutely no truth to that. An internship in which they pay you and you learn a lot of things on the job is deserving of credit. You don't have to call it an internship anymore. You can call it an apprenticeship, or heck, just call it employment on the job. But all of that is learning that happened for which there's credit that can be given if leaders of post-secondary institutions get with the program and actually identify what learning took place during that. They do it fine when it's unpaid. They make all kinds of assumptions about what you learned because it was you were mentored and you saw the way the organization worked and you learned a bunch of things, and then they map that to what they're allowed to give college credits for. That is the fundamental change. There should never be this dichotomy, this we will not give you credit if you get paid. That's what we have to end, and that is one of the major transformations that the post-secondary system has to undergo.
I agree. And if I can just jump in on this, because I do think that internship is a problem. I saw it when I was at Boston College. You know, the only ones that could take advantage, and they were the better ones, and I'm going to be honest, the only ones that could take advantage of it were the kids that came from well-to-do families. And so you talk about a double whammy, which is the kid that's well-to-do, whose parents already have the hookups, is now getting the better internship. And so therefore, the kids like myself who had to damn near pay my way through Boston College, I had to take a lower form of an internship. Guess what? When we're graduating, I can't stand up. Now, thank God I'm in education, but before I was thinking about going to law school. I can't stand up versus the next person who has all these wonderful things on their internship, but those were unpaid. My work was paid, but then that meant that those positions may look quote unquote lower. And so now I'm up against that, or that person's up against that. So yeah, it becomes a double whammy. But one thing I want to go back to something Asia said, and I don't think this can be missed. Where Asia said when she came into high school, she was thinking about one career. But yet when she is about to leave, she's in a totally different mind frame. We underestimate the aspect of child development paradigm shifts that go on. One of the things I always ask my freshmen when they come in, I always ask them this. I say, how old are you? They're like, oh, I'm 14. I'd say, okay, when you were 11 years old, do you think the same way at 14 than you do when you were 11? They were like, no. And so therefore, if we apply that same practice, do you think the same way at 18 than you do at 14? Guess what the question is going to be? It's going to be no, because there's going to be a myriad of life experiences that take place. So therefore, when we talk about this idea of college readiness, career, whatever, it has to take in consideration that a young person is going to be in a different life space, a different awareness space at 18. Oh yeah, and by the way, because we see it in college, right? Which is you walk in, you thought you was gonna do this great major. Guess what? You done changed your major. And I don't know how many of us, I'll put myself out there, changed my major 3 to 4 times. And matter of fact, I did not even think about going into education. My mind was bent on law school until I literally had a conversation with one of my fraternity brothers in the second half of my senior year. That's what put me now into this beautiful profession I've been in for 24 years. But I did not make that decision until even the second half of my college years. I'll end on this point. I think we need to be more aggressive about implementing certification programs on the high school level. What are we doing now? We're seeing community colleges allowing kids in high school to take college credit, right? To take things to work towards that. Well, we need to be able to do these things for certifications for various different careers, to give them not just the hands-on experience, but that they can leave high school with certain certifications or licenses. And I'm gonna push back on this. There's this ugly notion out here that you gotta be 21 years of age to have some type of career skill mastery. I just watched my daughter, who's 11, do an interface with a television. We're actually away. We're out right now, but we're at a hotel. I watched my 11-year-old daughter, take her Android cell phone and interface it with the hotel's television to run a movie. She's 11. Now let's put this in context, because somebody may say, well, that's normal nowadays. Hold up. Let's take it back to when that type of technology was just getting introduced. You would have said back then that you need someone from MIT to be able to do what my daughter at 11 years old just did. And so we have to reimagine the incredible competency skills of what young people can take on without being 18, 19, 21, 22. Get away from this notion that it's at that age that, oh, now you're able to work in the workforce. Now you're able to have a skill mastery. Wrong. These kids right now, even at 10, 11, 12, are running circles around it. And I wouldn't be surprised if you gave a kid an opportunity in high school to get his, Series 7, that kid could probably blow that out the water too.
Wow. And unfortunately, folks, we got to start bringing this thing to a close. And you know, Amani, when you were talking about that, I know we don't want to be college bashing, but we definitely have to refine college. And I'm saying that because I was lucky enough. Went to college on a sports scholarship, but that university made much more money than my scholarship was worth by me being out there. They probably made about 10 times more than my scholarship was worth that they made filling that stadium, watching me run up and down the field. So we definitely have to look at that. We have to reimagine how colleges will do better. And once again, I love the idea, even at the high school level, what the trajectory they're going to start sending youth out of high schools on. And I really believe in that gap year. That's something we got to really look at, because sometimes they need that gap year, even be mature enough to get to college and be able to maintain in college. So we're getting ready to wrap up. And but before we wrap up, I want to pose this question to everybody, because the month that we are in March, we want to also celebrate our women in our history, but we're going to celebrate our moms of what they're doing. So as we close out, the question I want you all to answer as you close out: what did your mama give you? What did your mama give you that made you the person you are today? So, okay, Asia, since you laughing so hard, Asia, you go first. You laughing so hard.
No. Because I initially said beatings, but I know she's watching it. Mom, I'm sorry. It was just the initial thought. She gave me the space to be myself. If I'm going to be honest, she gave me the space to be myself and to make my own choices. So that's what she gave me. Besides the beating.
Annie, you want to say what Mama gave you?
Right. So I'm also going to add grandmama because, right. So I think most importantly, they gave me confidence and to value myself and just to, they always allow me to be who I am, like what Asia said, and reminded me that I deserve to be in the position I am now, and I deserve to be at every table I am at. And like, I'm deserving of all great opportunities that are coming to me. And yeah, I deserve happiness too. So that's what my mama and my grandmother gave me.
Brother Jeff, what did mama or grandma gave you?
Well, besides life, they gave me purpose and hope that I could become somebody for tomorrow. Yep.
Great. Michael Deutsch, what did mama give you?
Jewish kilt, actually. That's. You know, it drives you forward because you never want to drop the ball because you know it's coming back some way to catch you.
Dave, go ahead, Dave.
Well, in addition to that, and in addition to giving me life, my mom was an English teacher, and she convinced me that you need to communicate clearly. She was always on me about being imprecise with language. What do you mean by that, David? I can hear that in my head all the time. Explain yourself a little more clearly. And it is literally created the way I communicate and the way I do my job, that I always start back from, that question in my mind. What exactly did you mean? Which word did you choose and why? It's tough having somebody constantly critiquing your grammar, but I'm glad she did.
Amani?
Yeah, my mom taught me, don't ever accept no from anybody, period. And I know a lot of people like to look at that as a cliche because we hear it, but there's so much truth to that, because what ends up happening is that when you no longer accept no, you try to find an end round way in, and you start seeing that impossible wall that people were putting up was actually just a facade, that there were multiple ways to get to where you want to get to. So yeah, never accept a no.
Brother Dove.
Well, my mom, single mom, Deanna, immigrated from Jamaica. She gave me love, safety, and belonging. She taught me resiliency. She taught me watch to leverage community capital, sacrifice. We moved from Harlem to down to the Upper West Side, 1 bedroom. She gave me the bedroom, and she slept on the pull-out couch in the living room. And she also used to tell me, Sean, I don't have to ask what you are doing. When I come home from work and I see who you're hanging with, that answers my my question. And so she, taught me like to hang with the right crowd.
Right. Norris, I'm going to put you on the spot. And Norris, tell me what mama gave you. And then tell me, and we're going to put up the flyer for the SYP. So right after you tell me what mama gave you, tell us a little bit more about how students can register for SYP this year.
Of course. So I actually grew up in Bangladesh, and my mom was a school teacher at an all-female school at a time when, women working after marriage was like pretty much unthinkable. So what it showed me is the conviction in my mom that if you want to pursue something, go for it, don't hesitate. So that's what it's really stuck to me. In terms of internships, so we have been talking a lot about unpaid internship and the disadvantage of that, right? I know where all of us stand on unpaid internship. So I have a great news. At DYCD, we do run a wide range of employment program for the summer If you are youth between the ages of 14 and 21, I would highly encourage you to visit nyc.gov/SYP to learn about different internships and also job opportunities for the youth. All of these things are paid, so you don't have to worry about being not getting paid for doing the job that you deserve the money for. So I would highly encourage everybody to visit nyc.gov/SYP to learn more about our programming. And thank you so much, everyone, for having me today.
And thank you. And we want to thank all of our guests that are on, Mike and Jerry. Oh, wow. I don't know how we keep, where do we keep finding these great people?
We're blessed and highly favored to be among folks who are blessed and highly favored. I'll say that. So
Wow.
in 2021, we started this idea of doing series over time. So I would declare our 3-month series on transformation to have been a great, great success. We started with personal transformation and then talked about family and community transformation and Black History Month. And here we are wrapping up now. We're actually going past 8 o'clock, apologies, but here we are wrapping up now, talking about youth workforce and societal transformation. And one of my takeaways from today is whether you're young or older, it's about engaging with where you're at, whatever your work program is, whatever your career visions are, whatever you're trying to bring to the world. And I like how Elmani said it. His mom told him, and he seems to be a living example of this, don't take no for an answer. If the door is shut, go around, I don't want to say go around the window. I don't want people to take the wrong connotation. Don't stop. Be unstoppable. And I really take that, and whatever's going on with these systems, these structures or whatever, don't stop. Be unstoppable and rally with other people in your group, in your tribe, in your family, whoever it is, people trying to go in the same direction as you. I really look forward to our next 3-month series. Stay with us. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. God bless Bonita Bobbitt. My parents separated and divorced when I was little. I would say that she gave me curiosity. She went up through the ranks over a 40-year career at the United Nations, from starting doing some translation and secretarial stuff initially to working as a professional, where she visited about 50 or 60 different countries to provide technical assistance. She built that career for herself and for the world. And I think that curiosity is something that she instilled in me. So I'm thankful for her. Happy
Jerry?
Women's History for me.
You want to say something about Mama?
Man, first of all, I want to just say thank you to these panelists, these guests. Y'all were awesome. This was such an amazing conversation to hear from all y'all, and even be able to hear Asia from a different light. I appreciate you, baby girl. In that space, what did I get from my mother? I would say 3 things: resiliency, faith, and vision. Single parent Caribbean mother, really had to do it herself. She had to work nights, and I'll never forget this story. One night she took me to work with her because we didn't have childcare like that, and I wanted to help her clean. And she refused to let me clean, to a point where she told me to sit at one of the office desks. It's like at the time, it looked like a Florida wall to ceiling windows and everything. She said, no, you're going to sit right there because I need you to know what you're supposed to look like moving forward in the position that you're supposed to be in. And so between faith and just giving that level of vision, Mom, I thank you. To all the women out there of all kinds, we thank you. And I want to pass it back to Scott.
Yeah, I want to thank my mom also, because she was a woman who stuck by me when many people counted me out. I tell you, I've been counted out so many times in my life where people told me, oh, you can't do it, you can't do it. And my mom was always the one there saying, I believe in you. I believe you can do it. If you want to do it, I believe you can do it. And she kept inspiring me to believe in myself that I can do it. She was always my cheerleader. No matter what I did, she was the one cheering me on and moving me forward. So I love her for that. And I think my mom is actually on YouTube now. So Mom, still love you, still here, still your baby boy. And also, before we wrap up, I want to encourage all of our people around the country who are watching, get your vaccine, get your vaccine, get your vaccine, get your vaccine. it's always better to have it and be safe than sorry than need it and not have it. So it's your choice, it's your body. But once again, try to do the right thing. This is not going to go away just by itself. We're going to have to do some work on our own, and we're going to have to get vaccinated. Some way, somehow, we have to get vaccinated. So we're going to be signing off, and we appreciate everybody who's logging on. And all my guests, I hope y'all just hold on for a second as we wrap it out and we wind it down for this barbershop.
Hey, yo, these is barbershop talks where the fathers pop off, brag about relationships and argue about sports. Every topic's a favorite, it's how we plot course toward changes. It all begins with dialogue and patience.
You can take us out there.